Okay, let's start. Assalamu alaikum. Hello.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I welcome all and good morning to everybody to participate in this workshop. This is the first workshop of our series workshop on systematic literature review. Today, I'm going to talk about how we can write a good systematic literature review. And end of this presentation, this workshop, I will share my slide with all of you. Today, I will tell you how we can write a good systematic literature review. Also, I will tell you how we can use the best method to make your work more easier. And also, I would expect from everybody to prepare your systematic literature review and during the series of workshop, and we can work together and we can submit your systematic literature review on a good journal paper. The output of this workshop will be research article, and I will help you to prepare your SLR. Today, I'm going to talk about what is a systematic review. And firstly, I'm going to talk about the basic concept of SLR and what are the main steps of conducting systematic literature review. After that, in the end of this workshop, I will show you some template, and I will share you some template, and in future you can use and you can prepare your SLR based on your subject. I divided the main concept of this workshop in two main elements. The first element is to understanding the basic definition and basic concept of doing SLR, and then I will tell you the template. By end of this workshop, you will be able to understand the purpose of SLR, and you can conduct and organize LSR. Also, as a main part of conducting SLR, you can be able to write your review question as a main part of SLR. Also, you can understand the principle of conducting search strategy. And you can write your synthesis and you can find the relationship, how we can find the relationship between previous works. Also, you can be able to present your finding by table or chart, and in the end, you can report your result. Generally, SLR is a systematic method, to data collection and to critically evaluate the data and synthesize the finding, quantitatively or qualitatively. And SLR can answer your question, why you are choosing your topic for your research. And systematic literature review can help you to clear your scope, to clear your finding, and you can find the best method for proposing your new model. Also, you can provide all reliable finding in the end. The role of systematic literature review is that you can explain your research question and you can identify the gap or problem. It is the main part of doing each research, finding the problem or gap of each study. Also, you can define and propose your new models based on your finding of SLR. And you can synthesize the finding. SLR can help you to minimize errors and bias and can help to end confusion. Also, SLR can highlight which related work is not more related to your scope and is not sufficient. Also, you can conduct comparison between previous work and find the new finding based on your SLR. Also, you can mitigate the need for further research, further precision, and so on. And each researcher will be able to be up to date with new research, and you can update your finding during conducting SLR. And the key characteristics of systematic review is clearly define your topic and objectives, because we should focus on our scope, and we should limit our scope. And we, by SLR, we should do a comprehensive search to find most related work among existing database. Also, by SLR, you should write your criteria for inclusion and exclusion of each papers. For example, if a paper is not related to your scope, you should have a criteria. You should create your criteria to remove that works from your database. And you can clear presentation of characteristics of each study, included analysis and which method they use, and based on methodology. Also, in the end, you will have a comprehensive list of all study excluded, and you should prepare your reason why you exclude that paper, why this paper is not related, why you want to remove from database. And in this slide, I want to show you the main stage of SLR. Actually, we have 8 steps for doing systematic research review. As a first step, we should have a plan, and we should create our plan. Plan can show all training activity, all your training activity, and all your effort for doing SLR. As a first step, we should have a plan. We should create a plan. And then we have question formulation and search strategy, selection process, stringing of evidence, analysis, synthesis, and in the end, we should have a process of monitoring, and we should monitor all tasks during SLR. In continue, I will explain you all the stage in details. For preparing a plan, we should prepare a tutorial. A tutorial is how to do systematic review, and you should define, for example, your team members, your methodology, and so on, and how you want to read statistics, how you want to prepare the result. In the next step, I will show you. In the next slide, I will show you a template of review planning. This is only an example, and you can create your own review plan. As a main component of systematic review is a time. You should manage your time for conducting systematic review. And for time, you should mention how, for example, how months or how many months, how many weeks you need to do to prepare your protocol. You need to prepare, find related work, and you want to search. How, for example, for inclusion assessment, validity assessment, data collection, and so on. You should estimate. In this step, you should estimate. For example, for analysis, I estimated 4 or 6 weeks as enough for doing analysis. It's up to you, it's up to your team, but at first, we should estimate the time component. The next component of your plan is team. You need to be working with subject experts to help, and you should divide the task among the member, and also you need to write a protocol. This protocol also, after this presentation, I will show you a template of protocol. I hope it will be useful for you. And for you need to mention your methodology for literature searching. Which method you want to use for doing search, and also you should mention about citation management. Which software you want to use for managing citations. I recommend to use EndNote. Also, for practical session, inshallah, I will show you how we can use most of you are, I'm sure you are familiar with EndNotes, but I can help you to connect and use EndNote, and because you should use in parallel with Word, and you need this software also. As a main and last step is preparing guideline. You need to prepare a guideline for doing SLR. For the next step is we need to be accurate, and we need to focus on your scope. For example, we want to for questioning formulation, we need to define review question. This part is very important for your SLR because it can impact on next step. You should have to, or you should prepare your review question very clearly, and in my idea, review question should be simple and very, very clear. Formulation, it means that you need to formulate your question, and you need to be accurate, and because it can impact on searching strategy, it can impact on inclusion and exclusion criteria. Also, it has effect on data collection, choose of synthesis method, presentation, and so on. For this reason, question formulation is very important section, and I can help you, and I will show you the very easy model to use and create your review question. As a very, very generic question is that what has already been written on subject X, for example. This is a very simple and a very general question for finding the relevant why you want to prepare your SLR in this scope, and what is the population of interest, what are the outcome interests, what study are appropriate. For example, I want to prepare SLR on COVID-19. As we know, COVID-19 had impact on many aspects of our life, but I want to focus on economy. For this reason, I should prepare a very clear question, review question. And my question, for example, is that what is the impact of COVID-19 on economy? It is very simple and clear question. I want to ask you to prepare your review question. Also, I will ask you to prepare your review question very simply and very clearly. And please don't include much variable in one review question. And I want to show you the main parts of main items that we need to include in RQ. For example, we should focus on scope of study, publication rate of study, main feature, and which method they use, how they evaluate, and for existing problem, how you want to solve, how they solve. This is the keywords of your words and to prepare review question. In this slide and next slide, I will show you some question formulation and some example. For example, your question, for example, is the first question is very simple question. What are the publication sources in the context of usability of X system? This question shows that we need to focus on scope of study. We should create a clear question to focus on scope of study. Also, we need to show and we need to examine progress in publication. For this reason, we can create second question. How has a publication rate on a study related to usability of FTSM changed over time? This slide and next slide are only example for you. You can create your own review question. For example, you need to identify the problem. What types of problem are targeted by FTSM? You need to find the solution. What is the existing solution? What solution have been proposed to overcome X issue? Based on your subject, I want to ask you to prepare your review question and please send me and we can discuss and we can read. I can receive your review question and in parallel we can work on this. If you are interested, please prepare your review question and please focus on your area, limited area, your scope. And as I mentioned before, please don't include much variable in one review question. After this presentation, we can evaluate your questions. As a third step, we should focus on search strategy. How we want to define research scope and search string. Search strategy also is a very important step for doing SLR. We need to prepare a list of most related work, and a comprehensive and research review search is a fundamental of a systematic review. Actually, when we find a related work, based on my experience, we need to search on high quality relevant papers. And in the next step, we should search on the paper that are in the reference list. And we should search on paper that cite this starting paper. It is a very general way to find most related work, and we can prepare our list. And in the end, we have a comprehensive list of inclusion and exclusion. In continue, I will show you how we can prepare our criteria. And this slide shows you the database. We are familiar with most of the database, such as IEEE Explorer, Springer, Web of Science, Scopus, and so on. And in this table, I'll show you a list of electronic database. After searching, we have a database that most related work are there, and then we should filter. We should exclude or remove some paper from the list. But for removing, or for inserting the new related work to the database, we should have a criteria. We should define a criteria. This step or selection process step also is very important step. In my idea, firstly, we should read the abstract and decide whether to read the article or not. After reading the abstract, we can find that is related to your topic, your subject or not. After that, we need to focus on introduction. We need to read introduction, and because introduction can explain why a study is important, and introduction of each paper show you the most relevant literature. After that, you need to focus on principle and measurement, how they, which method they use, and also you need to check the result and evaluate the result, and you can find that the conclusion of this paper is logical or not, and maybe you can find some errors for that way for the related work. Also, the main part after reading each paper, the main step after reading each paper, we need to prepare a discussion. we need to discuss about the paper. We should have critical thinking. We should evaluate the paper. This paper maybe has some disadvantage. We should list, we should highlight the advantages and disadvantages of each paper. For selection process, this is very important. Also, we need to create our criteria for inclusion or exclusion. I will tell you how we can exclude and include or remove each paper. This step can be very beneficial because exclusion and inclusion is very beneficial for you, because you, in the end, you can prepare a most related work to your topic. And this step should be done before analysis. During the practical session, I will help you to prepare your criteria. And firstly, we should define our criteria for inclusion and exclusion, and we should filter our database. After that, we can start analysis and evaluation or quality assessment. And in this step, we can find which paper should be included in the paper, in the review. And for example, for exclusion, we can find many papers that's written in different language than English. In this status, we cannot find the contents of, and we cannot find we cannot be familiar with the method and so on. For this reason, we need to eliminate the paper from the database, because we cannot understand the concept of the paper. This slide shows you example, some criteria for inclusion and exclusion. For inclusion criteria, paper, for example, paper must be published article in Polish English. Otherwise, we cannot. We should exclude the paper. And for example, you want to search and you want to review the most related work in between 2015 on 2020. You need to limit your range. For example, if the paper is published in 2010, you cannot include. You need to, and this paper is out of your scope, and you need to delete the paper. And also another criteria can be you should address a specific technique. For example, if you want to work on artificial intelligence scope, you can find many papers, but your focus is on machine learning techniques. So you need to focus on this. For example, if you find a paper on fuzzy logic system, if this paper is not related to your scope, you need to exclude. Also, after writing your review question, your criteria should follow your question. For example, you can define 4 or 5 review questions. Your criteria should be designed, should be prepared based on your review question, should be related. Otherwise, you cannot. You should eliminate the data. And also, for this step, this is the easy method to use Boolean operators. Most of us, I know you are familiar with this, with Boolean operators, but I want to show some example. For example, you want to use AND operator. AND operator, you can use and your search will find items containing both A item and B item. If you use OR item, the research will find items containing either item A, item B, and item B. Also for not can use for exclusion. After searching but not, for example, you define your keyword and you can put your operator among your keyboard. For example, you can search by keyboard 1 or keyboard 2 and keyboard, for example, 6 or keyboard 7 and so on. It's up to you. You can design your search string. Also, I will show you some example, and I will ask you to prepare your search string to select the most related word, and by using search string, your strategy is very accurate, and you can find most related word. This is another activity, and I will ask you to prepare your search string based on your scope. And I prepare a flowchart for you. For searching, for doing search process, it is very simple. We need to follow this flowchart. At first, we need to choose our library, and we prepare our search string. Based on our search string, we should execute search query among existing database like IEEE Explorer, Scopus, Web of Science, and so on. After finding the related word, paper identification, we should set our inclusion criteria. We should decide this paper is related to your scope or not. If this paper is not included, the paper should be excluded. Is not related, we should exclude the paper, and it's going to end. Otherwise, we select the paper and review the paper. If the paper is suitable, okay, we need to synthesize the finding of the paper, and the paper should include to our database. Otherwise, the paper should be excluded. In the next step, we have a string of witness. You should define what makes a high quality paper. And after searching and after collecting the data, we need to focus on, for example, you prepare your database, and you need to extract the most important data from each paper. You need to focus on a specific information that's related to your subject. Also, we need to consider articles that address key issues. And for preparing and collecting the most related information data from each paper, in my idea, is better to focus on following items. We need to mention about the source of journal or conference. Also, the search scope and topic area. Also, we need to put the author name, author details, and country of the paper, and so on. The main part of this section is preparing a summary of a study, including the research question and response to each question. This is the main part. After that, we should do quality assessment for each paper. And at the last item, we need to extract the number of primary studies considered in the paper. After data collection, we need to sort the data and filter the data and calculate the frequency and transform the data. In my idea, clustering or categorizing the data is helpful and can help to organize the SLR. And a database, you have a database, and based on my experience, it's better to prepare a separate form for each papers, and you can prepare your form by any software, and you can update the forms during conducting the SLR. But we don't need to put unnecessary information on each paper. Our summary should be clear and very, very clear, because during analysis, you can read the forms of each paper, and it's very easy to understand for you. For extracting and collecting and preparing forms, you need a software. It's up to you which software is easier for you. For example, if you are interested, you can use Excel, Access, and so on. And the selection is, depends on number of items. For example, is interested software for you, and how many data you want to include in the database. The analysis step also is very important step for conducting SLR. After collecting and preparing the database, you, for example, in this step, you want to start your quality assessment. You want to assess the quality of paper, and you want to synthesize the data. For this step, this step is very important, and we need to create our quality assessment question, because you want to validate the systematic review. And in my idea, it depends on a specific method that they use, because you want to report the data. During this step, you want to evaluate each paper. In my idea, we can extract the useful data from article based on main quality assessment question. I prepare a list of QA question, and our first question can be, does the study mention the experimental method? Because for example, in computer science, scope is very important question. And for example, if you want to prepare SLR based on machine learning techniques, you can ask, does the study specify machine learning issue? And you want to ask about the solution. Does the study specify solution to machine learning issue? I want to suggest you to use assigning a score method for assessment, for doing quality assessment. I think that is very easy method, and to understand is up to you. You can allocate a different score for each answer. For example, because we need to respond to each quality assessment question. For example, for first question is, if the paper, if the researcher of the related work, they didn't conduct any experimental method, our response to this question is no, and the score of no is 0. If they partially they consider on experimental method, your answer will be 0.5. If they have experimental method, your answer is yes, and the score is 1. It's very simple to do. For each question, we need to use a scoring. And for quality assessment also, the information obtained can assist to address review question. In the second step, as I mentioned before, we need to prepare our review question. This question, this quality assessment question, should follow that question and should respond or to each question. And we systematically apply certain statistical method to ensure a clear presentation. For example, you want to use Excel to prepare and your result. After assessment, you want to report your findings based on, for example, you can search based on by year, you can search by database and so on. And tabulation is very easy method to present your finding. Using drawing table is very easy method, and because we can present the list of primary study considered in the present, and you can summarize, you can indicate a specific issue addressed by each technique. You can present the topic area
Doctor, I think you accidentally mute your sound, your mic, sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, welcome. In this slide, I want to show you how we can present our finding. We can use pie chart, we can use bar chart for showing percentage distribution of information. For example, in this slide, I'll show you the percentage distribution of primary study by publication year. Also, after scoring, you have some result, and you can use bar chart to show the primary study and their corresponding quality score. In the synthesize step, we want to combine all of the finding, and we want to prepare new finding. It is it's very simple, but we need to focus on the data, and we need to the structure in this step, we should building up, putting together, and making whole out of the part. The combination of separate element of in a whole and reasoning principle to a conclusion. For this step, I recommend you to use narrative synthesis. I will show you how we can do this. And because you have heterogeneous data, and you need to categorize and cluster them, you want to show the new finding. Until now, from a step of data collection to data synthesis, we have three steps. After data collection, we have data assessment, and then we have pull of data. In this synthesized section, we want to prepare a summary output. Once the data has extracted, the quality and validity should be assessed, and the outcome should be prepared by you. And I want to recommend you to use tabulation, grouping, clustering, and routing method, both counting as a descriptive tool to show your finding. This slide show you the step of data synthesis flow diagram. In the first step, we have in the identification step, we have a database. After searching, we prepare a database. If you interview with with somebody, for example, with a student of a university, you prepare the data, and you have a database of your searching. After preparing the data, you need to remove the duplicated data because you need to filter the data. After that, you have a new or updated list. After, in this step, you need to assess the full text article for eligibility. If the paper is eligible, you need to focus on the data, and you need to include the data to database and evaluate. And you can use meta-analysis, you can use quality synthesis, and so on. I will show you some templates, and you can be familiar how we can do this. The last step of systematic literature review is process monitoring. Systematic literature review, in my idea, is simple, but we should be organized, and we should organize all steps, and we should be ensure the process is complete. Most important thing is that we should be organized, and we can use Gantt chart. It's very helpful to divide the task, and we can manage the time to complete each task. It is a main question or summary. What is the good systematic review? A good systematic review has a good research review question, and the researcher should conduct a literature research and refine and apply the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Also, the researcher should extract appropriate data based on quality and validity of the paper, and in the end, should synthesize and report the data. This is another activity. I want to ask you to prepare your inclusion and exclusion criteria based on your scope, and I want to ask you to focus on your review question. Also, for next session, I want to ask you to prepare a separate form, at least for 5 study. And as I explained for you, we need to focus on journal, we need to find the scope and topic area, we need to put some important data in your list, for example, author details, origin country, summary of paper. Summary of paper is very important, and I want to ask you to prepare your summary for 5 studies in your scope. Also, I want to ask you to prepare your quality assessment question for addressing the review questions. And you need to assign a score for each question, and you need to respond to each question. This slide shows you the template of our practical workshop for preparing your papers. After conducting all steps of SLR, we can start writing. During the practical workshop, I have planned to help you to prepare your draft based on your scope. We can work together and we can prepare different SLR. And we can start from introduction. And you need, but before preparing the paper, you need to prepare your research question. You need to prepare the database, forms, synthesize, and all of the section for SLR should be done, complete, and then we can start writing. We can work in parallel. We can step by step. For example, for introduction, we need Excel software to collect the data and prepare your database. Also, we need EndNote to manage your citation and so on. For writing abstract is a very important part in SLR, but it is the last part of your SLR. Because you need to update your data, you need to update your finding and so on. After preparing all of the section, you can write your abstract. And your abstract can be divided in 6 sections. Objective, you need to put a strategy, search strategy, selection criteria, data extraction, result, and conclusion. All these sections should be included in your abstract. Now I want to share with you some template. Okay, I prepare this template. This template is easy to use, and you can use this template for your SLR. I created different sheets, and you can use this sheet. Also, you can insert new sheet based on your work, and you can extend, or also you can modify this sheet for collecting your data. Firstly, I explained to you, we need to have a plan. After preparing the plan, where you want to collect the data. In this sheet, you can see that I selected the main parameters of each paper. For example, you can allocate an ID for each paper. You should mention or should sort the year published, country, data source, and you can search based on months. Also, you can put a study type. If, for example, for a study type, I defined some data. For example, you want to search based on year. If I select all, you can see the all papers that included here. Okay. I will edit that file, that sheet. But this sheet also is very useful. If you can please have a look on this sheet. I prepared the main parameters of each paper. For example, you want to search based on name of authors or publication date, title of paper, book title, journal title, database URL. You can include all data here. It's up to you. It is this only. It is a sample for you. You can also you can use this. Also, you can put your summary. Well, after reading the paper, you need to prepare your summary, and you need to mention about strengths and weaknesses. What is the advantage and disadvantages of this work, of the work, and in the end, you can put the reference. Also, I want to show you another sample for preparing your database. In this sheet, you can see some factor. For example, in the first column, we have authors, year, and you can put your title and category. For every piece of literature review you will need to capture the main details. I selected these items. For example, for other, you can enter the other's surname, and the format you use here is up to you. But we should follow some guideline. For example, for year, we can put a year without months, but I told you, it's up to you. And for title also, you need to add the title of paper. For category 1 and 2 and 3 is based on your subject. You want to categorize different categorize the related work based on different parameters. And for data type, you can see that I defined different type of document. For example, if the paper is a journal paper, you can select journal article. If it's a letter, and so on. It's up to you. You can use this. Also for publication setting, is it academic or mixed or practitioner or so on. Based on your work, you can define different items. For knowledge type also, knowledge type you can choose two options for empirical or theoretical or mixed. The theoretical refer to situation where an author is proposing a hypothetical theory or concept, but not testing it. Empirical refer to situation where an author is testing the theory by using some form of observation. And also for key arguments, you need to note the key takeaways of the perspective piece of literature review. The most important column is this is very important because after reading and preparing your summary, you need to be critical, and this is your notes, this is your finding. Also for methodology, I selected, I defined 3 items: qualitative, quantitative, qualitative, and mix. Based on your work, you can choose the item. Also for quality, for notes, and so on. This is sample. And for literature summary, you can see that you can search here. For example, for oldest year, for newest year, for average year. Here you have a list of documents. You can find that what percent of paper published as a journal paper. You can find that what percent of paper published and they use quantitative method and so on. You can prepare all statistical results here. Also, I want to recommend you to use review matrix. Review matrix, I prepare this template for you. For each paper, you can use this template based on your parameter, based on main parameter of each paper. You need to put the data here. For new paper, for new preparing new form, just you need to add new forms. Also, this sheet is another template for creating forms because we need to prepare separate forms for each paper. And it is example for you. For example, here I put the title, journal and author's name, year published, purpose of this study. I allocated number to each one. You can put another items, Unicode, based on your interest. And simple design, year data collected, control, and so on. It's up to you. You can define new items, but we should follow the structure for all of the paper. For review question, as I mentioned before, we need to prepare review question. I prepare some example for you, and I published one SLR before. One of my question for that SLR was how many primary SLR study on trust management in Bennett have been since 2008. To answer this question, we should first identify and we should focus and identify the SLR, previous SLR, and that published in this scope. And we should first identify SLR articles in a specific topic area. For example, I was working on trust management in Bennett. And identify the year, journal, conference, proceeding, and so on. To answer the second question, what are the questions of trust model? I identify main properties of trust model, how to satisfy them. And for example, I define the third question, how do researchers perform the report? The techniques to apply when performing trust management in Bennett. And I especially focus on articles that address trust management issue in Bennett, and I focus on the use techniques. For different questions, you can define your scope, your question, and you should respond to each question, how you want to answer this question. Also, I want to share with you this sheet. This sheet also you can follow this. You can put the title and the link of each paper, and also you can put the year and citation and so on. Because we can different way to show the data, to show the report, but mainly we can use pie chart, main chart, tables, and so on. In this slide, in this sheet, I prepare the data and categorize the data based on different databases and year. These results show that, and you can see that the percentage distribution of paper based on the database and published year. It's very simple to do. Also, you can define and you can analyze the related word based on the main keywords. For example, I define the list of parameters and keywords in my scope, and I compare and I evaluate which paper address this parameter, which paper address, for example, rate parameters, which paper is focused on intrusion, data centric, and so on. Surely you have different parameters, you have different keywords. You need to evaluate each paper based on your scope. Also, this sheet can show you the different, the result of analysis based on main parameters. You can see the percentage of each paper. For example, the highest percentage are working on location closeness. Also, you can prepare your figure, your finding based on parameter and percentage. But we need to prepare a clear presentation of finding. And actually, this is the template, you can use this. But for doing how we can create a good review question, I want to show you an example and method. I want to tell you about an easy method. In this document, you will be familiar with a very famous and very easy method, PICOC model. This model can help you to prepare your review question. One of the fundamental skills required for practicing and or preparing your review question is that we need to focus on 5 elements. 5 elements of a searchable question for preparing your research for searching a strategy and preparing your review question. The first question is that the population in which witness is collected and which group of people, which program or business are interested for the review. PICOC is abbreviation that stands for population, intervention, comparison, outcome, and contents. For first one, I explain for you is related to population. And the second item in intervention apply in the empirical study, which methodology or tools is under study. And for comparison, it means that the comparison to which the intervention is compared, how is the control treatment defined? And for outcome, what are you trying to accomplish? And the outcome of experiments should not be statistically scientific. I want to ask you to follow this model and prepare your review question. I want to show you an example. For example, for population, I want to prepare a review based on existing study on test estimation of mobile apps. For doing SLR, for doing preparing in this review, I need to focus on, sorry?
Excuse me, doctor. We can't see the screen that you are mentioning now. We only see the Excel sheet. Sorry, doctor.
Oh. Okay. I'm explaining the Word file, but I'm sharing it. Okay. Okay. I think that is solved, yeah. You have,
okay, now you can see the PICOC, yeah.
Oh, yeah. PICOC model. I'm talking about PICOC model. And I explained that we can use this model for preparing a review question. And PICOC model is abbreviation that stands for population, intervention, comparison, outcome, and context. I explain for you an example for using a PICOC model. For example, you want to review existing study on test estimation of mobile app. Your population is mobile application project. Your intervention is test effort estimation techniques or methods or process. And comparison, the outcome of comparison is traditional software test effort estimation techniques with mobile apps testing estimation. And the outcome of this comparison is a mobile software test estimation technique and properties of mobile apps. For contents, you want to review the existing study on test estimation of mobile apps. This is very easy to use, and you can create your review question by this model. And I want to ask you to prepare your based on your scope. Please prepare your review question by this model, and please complete this table. For example, you decide to prepare SLR on, for example, on machine learning techniques. You need to your population will be machine learning techniques or models or frameworks, and you need to please complete the table based on your subject, and I will share you the definition. The definition is simple. You need to follow your review question, and for preparing this, you can use PI-COC model. Also, I want to share another file with you for step 6. For step 6, I explain for you. We need to use some strategy for conducting a witness synthesis. For combining, for doing synthesized data and for finding new data, we need to evaluate and prepare, and we need to focus on methodology of each paper, which method they use. This paper show you the strategy for conducting and a witness strategy. Which type of data have I got? This is the main question in this step. And the data should, maybe you got a data from quantitative data, you have qualitative data, or both. You can prepare a table like this, and you can store all your findings here. For example, you can ask, are outcome reported in a comparable format? If your answer is yes, you need to put here, and you need to consider, for example, if they use meta-analysis, you need to explain here. And you have, for qualitative data, you need to ask, is the review objective validation or generation of a theory? If the generation for, you can explain here for validation, for generation. If they didn't consider on this, you need to explain and you need to complete. After evaluating each paper, you can find the methodology, and you can find how they can prepare the result, and you can be familiar with the strategy that they use. You need to complete these tables for summarizing the your evidence, for summarizing your finding. Also, you can for your SLR, also you can follow this approach, and you can discuss with your team or your supervisor to prepare. And we need to prepare very, very clear and very accurate data, because this data will prepare your finding of your review papers. And in the end, you want to discuss about previous work, and your previous work, your findings should be accurate. I want to share with you another file for preparing your SLR. Okay. Preparing the protocol is very important part for your SLR. I prepared this template for you, and I want to ask you to complete this template. This template is primarily intended to help you to systematically plan your review. You need to choose a title for your review, and you need to define first reviewer. For example, you have your team has 5 members. You need to define your first reviewer, team of reviewers. You need to put your supervisor name, and you need to put SLR overview, and so on. I want the answer of this. You need to complete the table, and the answer is very clear. Should be very simple. Please don't put in details. Only you need to add very important data. After that, I want to ask you to prepare a background of a review, a brief introduction of the subject of your review, including the rationale for undertaking the review and overall aim. It can be like a 1 page for preparing. 1 page is enough for preparing a brief introduction, and you need to mention the main aim of doing systematic review, why you want to choose this topic, and what is your main aim. It's simple to answer, and then you need to clearly define your specific objectives. For example, to clarify the impact of, for example, technology on young people, and to identify any factors and so on. It's up to you, and based on your subject, you can complete this section. Also, I ask you to prepare criteria for including study in the review. Please split up the question into separate concepts and put one under each heading. Criteria for example, for your criteria can be based on population, data range, language, and abstract, and so on. You need to define your criteria for inclusion or exclusion. Also, I show you some example in PowerPoint slide. You can follow this, or you can create new criteria. For search method also, I want to ask you to explain your electronic database. For example, if you want to use Web of Science, Internet Explorer, and so on, you need to complete here. The protocol is very important, and this is the first step. Before conducting SLR, you need to prepare your protocol, and then we can start. Also, if you use other methods for identifying relevant research, you can include in this paper, in this template. Also, for method of review, which method, details of method, the number of reviewer, how arrangement to be reached, and disagreement deal with, and so on. You need to mention who is the main reviewer, and you can put the name. For example, I mentioned 2 main reviewers and a third to resolve any disagreement. Main reviewers, myself, Hadi, and third reviewer, Ahmed, agree data to be extracted. You need to like this, because you should make clear all of the steps and each task, and all of the member can be familiar with her or his task. For quality assessment also, you need to put your tools. Which tools you want to use for quality assessment? For example, you want to use narrative synthesis, or you want to use meta-analysis, and so on. For data extraction also, please put your information here, which how you want to collect the data. If you want to use Excel file, if you want to use EndNote software and so on, you need to mention here. For narrative synthesis, detail on what and how synthesis will be done. For example, for narrative synthesis, will be done alongside any meta-analysis and will carry out using a framework which consists of 4 elements. You need to explain, is very easy. And for creating a witness, please mention about the system use. If, for example, if you use, you need to put the name of the system. For presentation of a slide, if you want to use the flowchart, summary table, pie chart, and so on, you need to mention here. And for timeline, please prepare your estimation based on time. And you can estimate, for example, for protocol, preparing your protocol, you need 2 weeks. And for searching, you need 3 weeks. For quality assessment, you need 3 weeks. And for the extraction, you need 3 weeks. You can prepare your protocol and please send me your protocol. After that, we can start your review if you are interested, and I will be available to answer your query and your question. Now, I want to ask you to please prepare your review question as a main first activity for preparing your review question. I told you before, you can follow PICOC model. You can follow this. I want to give you 5 minutes to prepare your review question. Please send me and we can discuss about your review question now, after preparing, after 5 minutes. Hello, who is volunteer? I want to ask you about review question. If you're interested, please share your review question.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Okay.
Should we send the review question in your email or in the chat?
It's up to you. In the chat also, I can receive.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, you asked me to share a slide. I think that you can collect the slide. I already shared. Okay, I received some review question from you. I want to ask you, please don't include much variable in your review question. In each review question, we should add one or maximum two variable. I can see your review question. Okay, you asked me to repeat, but I don't know which part, which section should be repeated. I can, if you have a question, I can show you because somebody asked me to repeat the steps. Generally, I told you we have 8 tasks for doing systematic review. The main task, first task is designing the plan. For designing plan, I share with you a template. You can follow that file. For formulation of your question, you need to focus on your subject, your scope, and please prepare clear and simple question. And for a search strategy, I tell you I can use search string, and we can define our search string. For selection process, we need to define our criteria for inclusion and exclusion, which data is related and which data is not related. For a string of a witness, we need to define what makes a high quality papers. For this step, we need to extract the main information of each paper. And also, I suggest you to prepare separate form for each paper. And please prepare your summary, the summary of each paper. Preparing the summary of paper is very helpful because you can write your SLR paper very fast because you have all of the material. Only for preparing your manuscript, only you need to start and use the data, use the material. For example, when you prepare your Excel file, you need to put the data in your papers. For analysis, I want to ask you to read the paper critically, and you need to focus on result, and you should define and prepare the new finding. For synthesize, I want to recommend you to use narrative synthesis file, and you need to show a conclusion. After reading, you need to prepare a conclusion. For example, after preparing the database, you need to conclude, okay, I find that the related work mostly focus on subject A, and you need to discuss about the weaknesses of previous work. What is the main gap of previous work? You need to clearly define the existing problem and how they solve the problem. You need to discuss about the methods, and you need to monitor your task. It is a summary of our conducting systematic review. Okay, thank you very much for your review question. Max, I told you we need to create 4 or 5 research questions. It is normal because we need to answer. For example, if we define 6 or 7 question is not easy, it's difficult to manage. Generally 3 or 4 research question is enough for one SLR, because you need to follow your research question, and you need to assess each paper based on your review question. And I will share you all of the material, Word documents and Excel documents. I will share all of the material with you after this. Now I want to discuss with you about exercise about synthesize of file. I want to share with you again to be sure. Okay. This exercise is for doing narrative synthesis. As I told you, we should combine all of the finding and prepare new finding based on previous works. For this reason, we need to use a method. Some of the paper they use data meta-analysis software, and is up to you. You can use this, but I want to recommend to you to use a narrative synthesis because after preparing the database, after collecting the data and filtering and categorizing and clustering the data, you need to prepare your report. We should briefly reflect on the journal article that you have recently read. And No need to focus on systematic review papers. Only you can read the most related works and do this exercise. I want to ask you, after reading the paper, for example, you find a related work, I want to ask you, how did tabular or graphical display make it easier to read? And were any graphical aspect difficult to understand and interpret? If so, why? Please answer these questions, and because it's helpful for you and is very helpful for designing your finding. I want to show you one flow chart for doing synthesis of data. After the step of this procedure is very, very, very important, because the step should be done very carefully. For example, if your tools for techniques is tabulation, please prepare very, very complete tables, clear tables, and if you use, for example, word counting as a descriptive method, you should prepare your result very clearly. And after developing primary synthesis, for example, you have a group of data, you can use tables, you can draw tables, you can group and cluster the data. This part is very important, because your systematic review is easy to understand for readers. When you categorize the previous work, is easy and to understand for readers, and I'm sure that your SLR will be perfect by using tabulation, grouping, transferring data for constructing common measures, and also you can use word counting and so on. After exploring the relationship between the articles, because after categorizing, you can find that, okay, this group has this characters, these properties, and you can find the relationship between previous work. After exploring the relationship between previous work, you need to use a tool or technique to manage the subgroup of our data, and you need to, for example, you need to describe the qualitative case, and you need to bold and highlight the main factors and main parameters of your finding. It means that you need to assess your finding. You need to analyze your finding, and which techniques you want. Hello?
Hello, Dr. Shidrokh. Can you please make it the fonts bigger, or the...
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah, I think that is clear now. After, I mentioned that after primary step and for synthesize the data, we need to use a technique. For example, we use tables, or we use clustering, or we use grouping and categorizing, and so on. After that, we have a different group of data, and then this part is very important to find the relationship between previous work, and you need to assess the robustness of synthesis after that, and you need to reflect the critically on synthesis process. What is your output after analyzing, after categorizing the data? What is your output? And then you can conclude and prepare your final report, and you can prepare your suggestion. For example, you want to design new models. It can be as a proof. Your SLR is your witness for preparing for designing new method in your scope. After doing a literature review, actually we can find many findings, but by using systematic review, we can organize our finding. And for narrative synthesis, we can move between the stages. For example, if when you update your database, you need to back again and you need to update your database, you need to modify your clustering. If your new finding is related to one group, you need to add to that group. For this reason, I ask you to prepare your, for example, Excel files, because it's easy to manage. You can manage your data, you can update your data during SLR, conducting your SLR. Also, I want to ask you to follow this, to complete this exercise. If you are interested to join for next session, please complete the exercise. I think that 6 or 7 activities you should complete and send me by email, and I can check and prepare and modify and revise your files, and then we can, in the practical session, we can work on your data. For example, when you complete your review question, please send me. I can check and I can revise, and during practical session, you can use your review question. Also for preparing your Excel file and preparing your forms, I ask you to prepare the forms, separate forms for at least for 5 studies. And then we can start our practical session, and we can start to prepare your manuscript. And for this step also, I want to ask you to complete these tables. After synthesize the data, you can find the current potential. You can put further details that requires and not relevant at present. You can prepare. You can complete this table after analyzing, after categorizing the data, and so on. You can complete your data. I will share all document with you. Until now, I should share, yeah, 4 Word file. And as a first activity, I ask you to prepare your protocol, and then review question, and then your string search. It's easy to do for a string search, and for review question is easy to do, but for protocol you need to discuss with your members. For example, you need to discuss with your supervisor. If you are interested to create a SLR, we can start from today. If you have any question, please let me know. Let's ask.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Shidrokh. Just now, when you commented on the how to write a research questions, you said that you commented just now it should not have many variables. What do you mean by that? Maybe this. I think the students are a bit needs to know about detail about that. How do you identify the variables in the research questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. I want to use a very simple question. I told you, for example, I want to prepare SLR on COVID-19, and I want to prepare SLR only I want to review the related work based on economy parts, and I cannot work, for example, I cannot find the impact of COVID-19 on education. I cannot find related work, for example, on medical parts and so on. Only I want to focus, and I want to prepare a review based on to find the impact of COVID-19 on economy. My keywords, my variable is economy, and my another variable is COVID-19. I can, in my question, I can ask, what is the impact of COVID-19 on economy? I cannot put for example, if I ask what are the impact of COVID-19 on education and economy and, for example, medical parts, I have many variables. It's not clear, it's not simple. We should prepare very clear and simple question. And then we can answer the question, and we can also, in the next step, we can prepare very simple QA question, because we should respond to each question. Okay. If you have any question, please ask me.
Can I summarize saying that it has to be like one-to-one mapping, is it? From the writer?
One-to-one, yes, yeah, you can do like this. Because for SLR, mainly we want to limit our scope. We want to limit our scope because the output and the finding of SLR is very important. If we focus on 2 or 3 topics or items, we cannot find many accurate findings, many accurate results. Our results should be consist with our review questions. I can see some review question here. Some of them is good, and we can. You asked me the question review is the same or review question? No, it's different. Question review is different with review question, research question. Research question is related to your thesis, what you want to prepare SLR. For SLR, you need to ask about your review. What's your objective for reviewing the related work? It's different to your research question. Sometimes maybe 2 or 3 of the research question, some parts is same, but mainly you want to mention, you want to discuss about the goal of this review. What's the goal of this review? For this reason, you should define your review question based on your goal, based on your objective. And also you ask me, yes, I can, for sharing soft copy, yes, I will share with you all of the material with all of you. I will share all material with you. For Excel file, you can modify the sheet and you will be creative. And for okay, I will check your question also, review question. Also, if you are interested, I can please send me you have my email. You can send email to me. You can send your review question and your material to my email. I will share my email again with you. My email is Shidrokh@UKM. My name @UKM.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Okay.
Doctor, I have a question. For selecting the paper for inclusion and exclusion criteria, is there any recommended technique for you to go through the paper? We have to read the whole paper, or how do you suppose to do it? Thank you.
Okay. The inclusion and exclusion also is related to review question. For example, if you find related work between 2010 until 2020, your inclusion criteria is that they have to have paper published with this range. Otherwise, you cannot include the paper in your database. It's up to you. For example, but mainly they is related to language and range of date and publication and so on. But you can create your criteria, new criteria. But mainly should related to your review question. For example, if you want to ask about, for example, machine learning technique, your criteria is that it should be the related work should focus on these techniques. Otherwise, you cannot include the paper to database. It's very easy, but you need to define, because you want to filter your database. You want to remove unrelated paper. For this reason, you need to follow also in your paper, in your systematic review paper, you need to add your table, you need to define. You need to mention that this is my criteria for inclusion and exclusion. Actually, it has not, I didn't see any methods, but because it's related to researcher and is related to your scope, your study, you can define any criteria, but you should follow the criteria for inclusion or exclusion.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Just one more question, Doctor. Do you include SLR paper in your review?
If you want to, it's related to your objective. For example, I want to write a new SLR based on previous SLR. For example, I found that many review paper is done before. If I want to evaluate that papers, and I want to compare my finding with previous SLR, yes, you can do like this. But sometimes you want to create new SLR among all of the previous papers. But actually, it's easier to do SLR based on previous SLR. It's easier for writing, for preparing your SLR. It's easier, and you need to see the previous database of published papers, and you can see the finding of published SLR, previous SLR, and so on. It's easier to do, but for PhD student and master student, mostly they want to find and prepare their own literature review, and it's better to use a systematic review, and they cannot focus on previous SLR. They should search based on all of the previous works, conference and journal paper. But for writing SLR, if you want to write SLR, yes, you can prepare your SLR based on previous SLR, and you can compare, and you should show your novelty and your finding for your SLR.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Welcome. Okay, I want to ask you if you are interested to join to the practical session, please do and complete the table and activity before joining to practical session, because we need to have a primary material, and then we can focus on your SLRs, and you can participate with your groups, or lead of each group can attend to workshop. But please prepare your material firstly, and if you have any question, you can ask me by email, and I will be available to help you. Inshallah, after this workshop, we can prepare at least, it is my estimation, I expect everybody to share your idea and to prepare your SLR, and in the end, we can prepare at least four or five SLR, and we can submit your work in high quality journal, inshallah.
Dr. Shidrokh, one more question. Okay, just now in your slide, you mentioned about to present in the form of matrix. Okay, where you have those some parameters on the X value and then another parameters of the Y value. How do you define those parameters that you, and then you do some ticking here and there, right? In the matrix. How you define that parameters and relate them with the research question?
Oh, you're asking about review metrics. Yeah.
Yes, I think, yeah, in the slide just now, you mentioned about the review matrix. You can
Yeah,
do
I shared with you an Excel for. Can you see matrix, review matrix? Yeah. You're asking about review matrix.
yeah. But
Yeah.
how do you choose the keywords that maps with the research questions?
Okay. I told you during the data collection for selection process, we need to focus on each paper. For each paper, I recommend you to focus on the journal or conference paper. For example, if you want to evaluate the paper, you need to focus on the methods. And firstly, you need to read the abstract. After reading the abstract, you can find that, okay, they use this methodology and they use these methods for evaluating. And in the end of abstract, they mention this is our finding. You need to extract the main information of each paper. The main information is up to you, but mostly they focus on the objective of paper. They focus on the method, the purpose model, and they focus on the parameters. For example, in wireless network, we have the main parameters. For example, for designing new frameworks, we want to focus on delay, throughput, and so on. This is our keyword. In my idea, it's better to focus on the results section. What is the output of each paper? When we check the result, we can find some keywords. For example, they measure some parameters. That parameters that it is your keywords. For example, if they measure for example, the throughput and delay and so on, it is my keywords. I can focus on this, I can extract this data. In my idea, it's better to first abstract, and then we can, for finding the keywords, it's better to check the results. Discussion part or result section part. The authors mainly discuss on the main keywords in the discussion part. And I think that is helpful to finding the keywords. For review metrics also, I shared with you, I don't know, you can see in the Excel file, we can, I put the purpose. What is the purpose of this study? If you fill this question, you can find that the keywords will be clear for you. You can find out what is the keyword, existing keywords. Also, when you fill the simple design, you can find out what is the purpose design, how they design the model. Also, for year of publication, this is another things, is main things. And for mainly the purpose of a study and the result part, in my idea, these two parts, abstract and result parts, can be helpful for you for finding the keywords.
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Excuse me, I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one, in asymmetric review, should I mention all the result and advantage and disadvantage for each paper? This is first one. And second one, how many papers I should to mention in my semantic review? That's all, and thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, about the advantages and disadvantages, no need to put all advantages. You need to find the new result. For example, after checking after reading a SLR previous, for example, you find a systematic review and you read the data, the papers. In the discussion part, they mentioned that, for example, study 1 has these advantages and has these disadvantages. If the advantages and disadvantages is repeat among the previous SLR, no need to add in new SLR. You need to find new properties of each papers. Because we want to prepare a novel SLR, new SLR. If we repeat the previous result, is in my idea is not is only copy and paste of previous work. We need to think critically and find the new advantages and disadvantages of previous work. For this reason, I'm sure that we cannot find many properties and disadvantages. Maybe for each paper we can find 1 or 2 advantages and disadvantages, and no need to put all. Only we want to put the main strengths or weaknesses of each paper. For the number of papers is up to your scope, but in my idea, actually, when it's better to, because you want to prepare a SLR in your scope. My suggestion is that to find the best SLR that published before, for example, in a IEEE journal or a very good journal, you can find and read SLR. You can check the reference list. After checking the reference list, you can find that how many papers need to review in your scope. But it is up to you. In average, you can see, for example, 150, 120. But I should say that is up to your scope. But my suggestion is that to find very strong SLR that published before in 2019, 2018, and you can see the reference part. You can estimate how many papers you need to review. I think that is a good solution. Okay, thank you very much for attending this workshop. I'm looking forward to receive your activity and your files. And please ask me if you need any help, please let me know. I try to help you, and I try my best to prepare at least 5 or 6 systematic review. Inshallah. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Hello.
I just want to remind, please help us to review this program I have put in the chat. Thank you very much.
Prof. Masri, excuse me, I can't hear you. Can you repeat again?
I have put a link to review feedback review about this program. Feel free to give us a good feedback for this.
Okay,
I put it again. I copy.
Okay, I found your link. I see that your link.
I just up a link again. Please fill up. Thank you very much for listening, and I would like to see you again for the following session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.